Story: The Strange Deaths. I have a peculiar ability. I can see the lingering ideas in this world. To me, that ability is like a curse. Just a slight touch, and there are how many things at that intersection that aren't human. A bloodied young man lying unconscious on a big motorcycle, a vegetable vendor hit by a truck, an abandoned baby with a bruised body bitten and torn. Those images are real, they just happened a long time ago. Therefore, I always wear gloves, avoid contact with objects or strangers. The local radio bulletin reported. Many local residents have reported, recently, there have been many paranormal phenomena in the rice tree in the Lake Region dormitory. The event is causing great panic among the boarding students of this international school. The case is still under investigation. Hearing this, I suddenly remembered Rybook's story he told during lunch break today. Do you guys know? There's a ghost in the Lake dormitory rice tree. Last night, a couple on a date suddenly saw a blurry white figure swaying on the branch like it was being hanged. Ali Khan chimed in. And that rice tree is also very strange, no one has ever seen it bloom or grow leaves. Last month, our school was about to relocate it to build a library, but Min, shrewd. I rolled my eyes. He scratched his head. Oh, what I meant was the duty teacher leading the way with a machete, he fainted at the first strike. From the cut, red resin like blood flowed. No one dared to touch it anymore. Really, everyone was excited and curious. Okay, the duty teacher won't have to stay up late with a flashlight chasing people anymore. I quickly grabbed my books and rushed to the gifted math class. Hey, how about the ritual tonight, will you join? Kiyomi asked. No, my grandfather used to say, don't provoke demons if they don't touch you. I'm not entirely materialistic, nor do I support idealistic theories. But I think, in line with my beliefs, if someone doesn't bother us, we shouldn't bother them. Those rituals, ghosts, or corpse carrying, I don't want to try. My grandfather firmly believed that this was the soul that had not been released, so it was seeking revenge. My father stood on the scientific view, saying that in the air there are many molecules. These molecules also have the ability to retain images, but they're always moving, coming together and dispersing very quickly. Whenever their arrangement coincides with the past, they will recreate the images that occurred at that time. The next morning, as I threw my big bag into the locker, I saw Rybook's gang creeping up to look like zombies in an angry fruit game. Hi, what's up? Forever and one. Really scared. Ali Khan paid no attention, sitting on the ground. So, did you find out the identity of the ghost girl? I helped him put his things away. These guys tried to stay awake until midnight, sneaking around until they escaped the sight of Min, shrewd, successfully approaching the rice tree, set up an altar, lit incense. After finishing reading the ritual, then, keep going Rybook, it's getting exciting. I was curious. Rybook glanced at Kiyomi with full meaning, then fell silent. Kiyomi slammed the locker, then said angrily, yes, it was me, suddenly fainted, causing you two to carry me back to the room. After saying that, she flipped her curly hair behind her shoulders and walked straight back to the classroom. Rybook and Ali Khan stared at me with bloodshot eyes due to lack of sleep. Not only that, we were also invited to visit the supervisor's room to write a reflection and copy the rules 100 times. A horrifying night. Most students at the international school didn't like teacher Min because he was very strict. When news spread that he took a day off, for whatever reason, the students, who had been itching to rebel for a long time, rejoiced and promised a wild party. Kiyomi was grumbling to me about her nails, saying they grew long so quickly. She had just cut them last night, and they had grown long again by the next morning. I was also excited about the party, but somewhat disheartened because I knew why the teacher had to take time off. Uncle VY, teacher's elder brother, suddenly had a railroad accident and passed away. Just a week before, cousin Deep, teacher's cousin, also died from electric shock. People in my village said that because Aunt Vuke, teacher's mother, died at an inauspicious hour, many more people in the family had to follow. It had only been 2 weeks, the earth on her grave hadn't turned green yet, and the white mourning cloth was hung twice more inside the house. After the school party, I went home just in time to witness Grandpa slamming the door to a room full of anger. My father was sitting in the living room, looking tired. "Hello, Dad. What's going on?" While I'm trying to explain to the villagers that Uncle VY and Cousin Deep's deaths were accidents, your grandpa stands with him, believing it was due to the restless spirits and insisting on exhuming the bodies to perform rituals. Dad expressed frustration. "Wash your hands and come eat. Your grandpa and I have already eaten." "Yes, Dad." I put my bag away and knocked on Grandpa's door. When there was no answer, I spoke up. "It's me, Grandpa. Please open the door." The door immediately opened. I went in and sat down next to him. "Grandpa, what is Trung Tang?" Trung Tang is when the deceased passes away during an inauspicious hour or month, so their soul can't escape and wanders in the mortal world, being Trung Cow, and then Trung will catch, one by one, the relatives in the clan. Have you ever seen Trung Cow? Yes, it looks like a crow, but much larger. In the past, when this area was still wilderness, whenever someone died during Trung Tang and wasn't appeased, at midnight, Trung Cow would perch in front of that person's grave. Every time it caws, there would be an "oh" response from under the grave. It was investigating the person in that grave about their family line. So if you can't avoid dying during Trung Tang, what should you do? In the old days, if someone died during Trung Tang, they would stick a talisman on the coffin to scare Trung Cow away so it wouldn't disturb them. But now, no one believes in it anymore, and it's hard to find someone who knows how to make the talisman. Grandpa sighed. I brought a bowl of rice and food to the living room, where Dad was still sitting. "Eat with me, Dad." "I've already eaten." "Have you talked to your grandpa? Did he say anything to you?" "Yes, Dad. He told me about Trung Tang and Trung Cow." Dad's forehead creased slightly. Poor Dad, I was about to bring up a rather exhausting issue. "Dad, hypothetically speaking, if there were a few more incidents like this, would you believe in Trung Tang and Trung Cow?" "Dad believes." I widened my eyes in disbelief. Dad continued, rubbing my head. "Dad will believe, but in a scientific way. According to the theory of electromagnetic waves and energy fields, in the relationship between the deceased affected by Trung Tang and those affected by Trung Bat, there is no direct physical contact, so there must be an invisible wave component of both parties involved. This could be a phenomenon of wave resonance with a familial, ancestral nature. Due to the vastly different frequencies, according to music theory, this type of resonance is called harmonic resonance. It is the mechanism of harmonic resonance in a familial context. Is there a simpler theory? I scratched my head. Trung Tang is a coincidental occurrence. The essence of coincidence is a major law in probability theory and statistics. This law can simply be understood as, with a large enough sample size, any strange phenomenon can occur. So why do these incidents often happen during Trung Tang hours, and what about Trung Cow? Another interpretation is that Trung Cow is a type of parasite that forms on the body of the deceased under specific atmospheric conditions and temperatures, and it will parasitize and develop on objects with the same lineage. Somehow, the common people know and pass down the method of calculating the appearance time of those special conditions, called Trung Tang. This understanding can also explain why those in the lineage often die afterwards. "What do you think?" Dad asked, seeing my eyes shining with admiration. "You're amazing." I didn't say anything out of the ordinary. My hypothetical words from the previous day had become reality. VY, Uncle VY's daughter, was found hanging from a tree on our school grounds. The police found no suspicious points, ruling it as a suicide. The villagers were in an uproar again, leaving only teacher Min and Uncle VY in the family. Aside from the Trung Tang hypothesis, the students at the school all believed it was due to academic pressure. One person didn't believe that, Ali Khan. We all knew he was interested in VY. One afternoon, Rybick and I sat silently beside him on the rooftop. After a long time, he handed me a necklace, easily recognizable as a couple's necklace. I don't believe it. She agreed to be my girlfriend yesterday. I took off my gloves and carefully held the necklace. VY was meticulously stringing beads, letters onto the necklace cord. A pure smile under the morning sun, along with her flushed face, shyly handed the necklace to Ali Khan. Suddenly, I felt sad, a cold sadness penetrating deep into my bones. I tightly gripped the necklace and said, "I don't believe it either." We went to the rice tree, not using gloves anymore. I touched the tree trunk, closed my eyes, focused my thoughts, and spoke of the images passing through my mind. I see it now, a dark area, her hair flowing loose, wearing the Origami Club badge. She's swaying on the tree because of a rope. That's right, Rybick encouraged. There's a hand. So, Ali Khan and Rybick explained. There's a pair of hands holding the rope. Whose? Rybick and the others asked eagerly. A. I hugged my head, rolling on the grass in my mind, the shadow of two hands as dark as smoke slowly pulling up the rope. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't see anything else. We looked at each other, wondering if the others were accidents. We rushed to the police station, where my dad worked. Did I tell you that my dad is an inspector? After hearing what I saw, Dad took me to the scenes of previous accidents. I saw a pair of hands pushing Uncle VY onto the railway tracks from behind. I saw a pair of hands closing the intersection while Uncle Deep was fixing the electricity. I saw Aunt Vuke reaching for her heart medication, but a pair of hands pushed it away. Aunt Vuke died in horror. A pair of hands lurking in the darkness. So, one knot was untied, unrelated to Trong Tang, but many new knots were tied because the perpetrator left no trace and no motive was found since Aunt Vuke's family had no grudges with anyone and was well loved by the villagers. For the past 2 days, Kiyomi has been absent from school. We went to her dorm to visit and tell her what we had discovered. She wrapped herself in blankets, whimpering. I think I'm possessed. Why? Lately, my nails have been growing unusually fast. I trim them every night, but by morning, they're long again like demon claws. It seems like I go out every night or something, waking up with my feet covered in dirt and weeds. I'm so scared. Since when has this been happening? Since the night of the prayers. We exchanged worried glances. Throw off the blanket. Do you think that would successfully suffocate yourself due to lack of oxygen? No, Kiyomi shouted and then trembled again. No, there seems to be horns growing on my forehead. Rybick impatiently yanked the blanket away. We all gasped at the cold air. It was more terrifying than anything I had heard her recount. Kiyomi, emaciated, her once fair skin now pale and lifeless, her nails long and sharp, her small feet scratched from thorns left by weeds. Something was protruding from her forehead. Without saying a word, we all recognized that she now looked like the symbol of the devil. Kiyomi panicked, crying and covering her face. At night, Ali Khan, Rybick, and I carefully watched outside Kiyomi's room, wary of anything happening. After midnight, nothing happened. When we were about to fall asleep, yawning with tears, the door suddenly burst open. Kiyomi, in a long white nightgown, her curly hair cascading over most of her face, stepped out barefoot. Her whole body seemed to emit a chilling aura that made us shiver. The drowsiness was swept away without a trace. We quietly kept our distance, following Kiyomi to the end of the village. I seemed to know but dared not think further. At the end of the village was the cemetery. Kiyomi's bare feet stepped on the thorn bushes, passing several graves and stopping in front of a small mound covered in weeds. There were a few incense sticks planted there. The incense sticks were still very new. She leaned down to stroke the mound tenderly and spoke in a strange, distant tone. My love, Mom will soon settle all the scores for you. It will be very soon. Kiyomi lit the incense sticks on the barren mound. The cold wind blew, making the cemetery gently sway. We clenched our fists in our mouths to stifle our screams. Suddenly, she turned abruptly towards me. A sinister laughter echoed, blending with the howling wind. In that moment, my entire body froze, a chilling sensation running down my spine. In my mind, the only thought was what my grandfather used to say: hearing a ghost cry was better than seeing a demon laugh. The fragrance of incense diffused faintly, but when we were able to move, we couldn't find the trace of the white dress anywhere. We panicked and searched, but the cemetery was deserted, and Kiyomi's room was empty too. We all had to go back to my house, seeking help from my dad. Dad was extremely angry at our recklessness just now. For the first time, my grandfather and Dad stood on the same front. Suddenly, my grandfather spoke up. Was it around 1 to 3 o'clock when Kiyomi left the room? We nodded. He exclaimed, "She's under the spell of the demon hour." Dad quickly put on his coat and called the uncles and the search team. We gathered to listen to my grandfather talk about the demon hour. Anyone tainted by impurity during this hour would have their souls possessed by evil spirits. If not released within 49 days, they would forever become demons. It's been 46 days since the night of prayers. Talking about the forgotten grave in the cemetery, my grandfather sighed. Is it? Who is it, Grandpa? Nearly 50 years ago, a child was born in this village with white hair, white eyebrows, rosy skin, and pink pupils. The villagers believed it was a demon that caused the death of its father in the womb, so they hanged it on a rice tree. Is the executioner still alive? Does he have any connection to Mr. Vuke's family? I suddenly sparked an idea. There must be some connection. The executioner passed away long ago and had no connection to Mr. Vuke's lineage. Is the baby's mother still alive? Rybek's voice trembled as he asked. The mother was tied under the rice tree. When the baby died, she was released. That very night, she set herself on fire at the base of the rice tree. When the villagers rushed to rescue her, there was only a pile of ashes left. I shuddered, unable to imagine. It was truly horrifying. That baby was not evil. He was just suffering from albinism. Ali Khan protested. He was evil. He brought many calamities to this village. Since his birth, his father died, and fires occurred endlessly. The village has never been in such turmoil before. My grandfather refused to acknowledge. No, that baby was innocent. Rybek couldn't contain his shout. The heated argument lasted until dawn. The reddish sun glowed through the window, making our eyes ache like blood. We went to class feeling disoriented and extremely worried. Kiyomi seemed to have evaporated from this world. I couldn't sleep at midnight. Suddenly, looking out the window, I saw clearly a pair of slender hands imprinted on it. It was horrifying, sucking the air out of my chest, making my throat freeze, unable to scream, staring blankly at those hands. The midnight moment was eerily quiet. I could hear my heart pounding, the sound of cold sweat dripping on both sides of my temples. Behind it was still an extremely dark space. The hands gradually disappeared, leaving only faint traces. I felt reborn, shouting out, "A! A! A!" Immediately, Dad and Grandpa rushed in. Lying in Dad's arms, I burst into tears. All the fear and horror of the past few days erupted. I couldn't focus on going to school anymore, so I went to the research room with Dad. After waiting for so long, there was finally a result. I leaned against the door, eavesdropping, but Dad was afraid I'd be scared, so he stubbornly kept me away from the case. What happened? Did you find anything? My father's voice. Very strange, extremely strange. My uncle's voice from the research room. What is it? No human fingerprints. The perpetrator might have worn gloves. There's no trace of gloves either. In short, there's no human evidence here, no fingerprints, no epithelial cells. But there's a very strange liquid substance. Guess what? Is it rice resin? My father guessed. I also held my breath, my heart pounding repeatedly to the point where I almost screamed, "Keep silent." Exactly. Now my heart was pounding out of my chest. Dad saw my pale face as soon as he opened the door, my limbs trembling with cold, and he immediately understood, rubbing my forehead, sighing deeply. Dad took me home, laid me on the bed, pulled the blanket over me. He held my hand tightly and said, "Honestly, I'm also very worried, but I'm sure of one thing, I love you very much. I will protect my princess no matter what's happening. Do you trust me?" "Yes, sir. Therefore, all you need to do is close your eyes and rest. Dad is always here for you. I love you." Dad kissed my forehead. "This is from your mother. If you believe in demons, remember one thing. Nothing can defeat the love your mother has for you." I fell asleep in the warm embrace of my father. I believed in my father's words. Because my mother died giving birth to me, but there were pictures of her all over the house. Dad did all the work of my mother and told me, if it were your mother, she would do better than this. Every evening, Dad never forgot to tell stories about my mother and kissed my forehead, saying, "This is from your mother." Thanks to that, I believed that my mother was always present by my side. I felt a throbbing headache, startled to find two hands strangling my grandfather, quickly releasing him. Grandpa coughed. My father's face was extremely horrified, asking me if I was okay, then turned to ask Grandpa. I quickly removed my gloves and touched Grandpa, suddenly understanding everything. I felt like a sleepwalker, slowly walking down the dark hallway to Grandpa's room. He asked if I was awake and hungry. I didn't answer, approached and strangled him. He struggled, and through his pupils, I saw my image. Soulless eyes, disheveled hair covering most of the face. The room was silent, only the ticking of the clock, where the long and short hands had marked 12 o'clock. Then my father screamed, trying to pry my hands off, then grabbed one of Grandpa's thick books and slammed it on my head. And then what happened next, you know. I trembled, wondering if I had been sleepwalking and committing mass murder. I don't want to live anymore. How many innocent lives have these hands taken? My grandfather and father were struggling to find the right words. It must be so difficult for them, figuring out what to say to their own child who is a murderer. Then my father spoke up, struggling. "There's an imprint of a hand on your back." I froze and stripped off my outer shirt. My hand touched the fading mark. Hatred flooded my heart. "You can't escape. Come out." Images in the darkness flashed rapidly. I jerked, realizing I'm doomed. Today is the 49th day. I dashed out of the house. My father called. "Where are you going?" "I have to get to the rice tree now, no time left." "Stop running, get in the car, I'll drive you there faster." Upon arrival, I saw Kiyomi, laughing wickedly. "I swore to use these very hands to seek revenge on you. I let your son kill all your loved ones. Today, I'll show you how I felt 50 years ago. I'll hang him in front of you." Looking over her shoulder, I saw Mr. Vyuk in a panic, while Mr. Min slowly approached Kiyomi like a puppet. I shouted, "No!" Dad rushed to restrain Mr. Min. They wrestled fiercely. Normally, my father would easily subdue him, but today Mr. Min suddenly seemed unusually strong. This little one, I didn't touch her. Yet she repeatedly ruins my plans. Go die. I felt the malevolent energy creeping into every fiber, every pore of my being. The pressure was overwhelming, suffocating. Gradually collapsing, as my eyes were about to close, I saw my father using all his strength to tackle Mr. Min. I lay in my father's arms, his tears warm on my face. I felt enveloped in a gentle light. A soft voice, like the one I dream of every night. "I know, you love the child deeply because I'm also a mother. But a real mother wouldn't taint that sacred love, even if filled with resentment because they always want the best, most forgiving, and beautiful things for their child. Let go of the hatred, keep the image of the mother intact in your child's eyes." 2 sparkling tears flowed down Kiyomi's cheek. The horn on her head turned into a beam of light shooting straight into the sky. "Mom." "Yes, I've wanted to tell you this for a long time. Mom loves you." "I love you too." My mother's image faded. I panicked. "Mom, don't go. My mother leaned down to kiss my forehead and said, "Mom's not going anywhere, Mom is always with you. But you need to wake up, Dad is very worried." The light dissipated into small dots like summer fireflies and disappeared into the darkness. In my ears, the words still echoed, "Remember, Mom loves both of you very much." The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was my father's deeply distressed face quickly turning into extreme joy, looking very pitiful. "I love you, Dad." I hugged my father tightly. "This is from Mom," Mom said. "Mom loves Dad very much." Dad hugged me tightly, choked up and speechless. Dawn after a long night. Kiyomi returned to normal. Mr. Min confessed to 4 murder cases, but showed signs of mental illness. As for Mr. Vyuk, he turned to Buddhism. He believed that in the remaining years, he could shed some of the karma he had caused in the past, while praying for the deceased souls to rest in peace. He admitted to loving that woman to madness, trying to destroy her happiness in every possible way. When the child with tuberculosis was born, he was the one who spread rumors, causing the villagers to believe it was the work of demons, forcing her to watch her own child being killed. After this incident, my grandfather was no longer fanatically superstitious, my father no longer denied spiritual matters, and my family rarely had conflicts. What does Dad think about this time? Does Dad believe that souls are real? Dad thinks that when we die, some part of our brain still functions, emitting waves into space, seeking those with the same frequency. These waves are called intentions. Strong or weak intentions depend on what unfulfilled desires a person had in life. Is that possible? Why not? Anatomy has only explored 1/10 of the brain. What do you think? In the air, flying in front of you, beside you, behind you, are souls. I mean those waves. They are trying to connect with you. One day, if there's a wave coinciding with yours, what will you be like? The end.
Hopefully the content has brought you interesting and meaningful moments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Ghost Stories YouTube channel to follow the channel's next videos. See you in the next video. Have a good day.